So welcome to another war game review from theplayers8.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we're taking a look at Congress of Vienna from GMT Games. And that's right, I said a war game, because Congress of Vienna is indeed a war game.
100%.
A little bit of a hybrid, right? So this is part of this Great Statesman series from GMT. This particular one is designed by, let me get it right,
Frank Esparago.
But it's very similar, broadly speaking, to Churchill, in a way that things like Versailles 1919 is very divergent, and Pericles was also quite different, the way that it played. This is more Churchill-like in the way that everyone debates, and then the way that the various tracks are trying to converge. That's about where it ends. There's a lot of different minutiae, and the combat is much, much more prevalent in this one. Why we say it's a war game. Like, almost everything you're doing is to be able to prosecute the war in a much more effective way.
And I would actually say that Churchill is the same thing, right? You are still doing everything on the debating table to prosecute the war on the track.
So
where the difference is, this is my opinion,
Yeah.
where the difference is, you put the military ops out, but then you use your cards and your leaders to affect your combat.
But in Churchill, you can win the game by committing very little to the war and focusing on that pole mill issues. And you cannot do that in
Yeah,
Congress
in fact,
of
the
Vienna.
Brits, I don't think ever want to get involved in the war, to be honest.
It's not necessarily there
Because they can totally win with colonies and the influence
and it's that
other
stuff that is not in here particularly.
Well, with the exception of Austria can win the war, win the game by not fighting in the war.
Well, I don't think they can do that.
But they get 2 VP every turn for being out of the war.
Yeah.
And then if they
but
focus on
there's
the
more to be gained by joining the war. It's a case of
near
balancing
the
that
end,
delay.
near the end,
But like, it's
Yeah.
all about prosecuting that war. Like, you have
Sure.
your reinforcements come from those. Your military ops come from those. Your cards can be leaders committed to that. There's so much more war focus in this one compared to Churchill, I think, anyway. But
no, there is. I feel like it's the cards that do it.
interesting.
The
That's
actual
interesting.
battle cards and your leaders that can be used to debate issues as well.
Yeah,
Right?
Well,
They-
that's the joy of it.
Yeah, they have an ability where they can actually move an issue up, but you're going to more often than not save those for a battle. Unless you're deciding, hey, I'm not going to fight any this turn, then I might use my big leader to move an issue up.
So
But that to me is the real distinct difference.
before we go any further, 1 to 4 player game, just so everyone can calm down about that. There are bots in this if you want to play it solitaire, but I promise you want to play this 4 player. Like, there's
Yeah.
no doubt that that's the way that you want to play this. Get the max players, because then you're getting the real meat of the game, the real joy of the game, which is
Yeah.
you, me, and 2 friends going back and forth on these issues to then resolve our combats.
Yeah.
And when it's run by bots, it's just not the same.
No.
It-
and none of those games are the same. Churchill's not the
Yeah.
same. Pericles is not the same.
Like, it's a way to maybe learn the game on your
Right.
own before you teach it, or to see maybe, hey, what's the strategies that the bots focus on? Maybe I should pay attention to some of those
learn
things
from
if
that.
I've never played before. But the reality is you want to get your players to the table to play this. That's what makes it so good.
Yeah.
The other kind of major difference, and we'll camera on this quite a bit, is those cards. So Churchill, everyone has their own separate deck of cards. And in this one, it is one singular mammoth stack of cards. Now, that deck of cards is divided up by everyone's kind of nations, and
Yeah.
some of those cards will favor those people, although not be exclusive. But it's all in this giant deck.
A shared deck, yep.
And what that does is radically change the game. So there's, first off, you've already mentioned it, they have this dual use to most cards. You can either use them for diplomacy, where they have an ability to move issues, or if you don't do that, they will have some combat effect when you
Yeah.
commit them to a battle. So you already have this hand of like
Not every card, but there are a group of
a
cards.
majority of them have both.
Yeah.
Though.
I don't know about a majority. I would disagree with you on
Okay,
that.
I'd like that. That's probably something we could. But I think
Because
it's like,
I actually went through the deck after our second play, and I picked out all of my combat cards, and I would say it was about 30 to 40% of my cards that were combat related.
yeah, and probably 30 that are diplomats, and then 30 in between that's both, or just 30 that were combat.
I was saying 30 that
had any amount
had
of combat.
any effect on combat.
And perhaps that was just the British ones.
Maybe. I haven't done a full analysis of the four factions.
That would be interesting to see. But
Yeah.
all that to say, because it's this
While we're
shared
talking.
deck, because they've got all of this options on it, there's so much more variety and choice in your cards. You have a hand of anywhere from 10 to 15 cards instead of the like 7 in Churchill.
Right.
Because you're going to play 6 or 7 of them or more in the debates and still have some left over for combat. And you already have that grand choice of how much am I committing here, how much am I committing here, how many guys am I going to save over. Because if you blow everything on diplomacy, you're going to win all the stuff.
Yep.
But then in combat, you're going to notice that.
Wellington, an amazing card
Yes.
for the British.
But conversely, if you do the opposite, if you say, screw the diplomacy, I'm going to save everyone for combats, guess what? You're not going to have won any issues, you're going to miss out on the victory points, and you're not going to have anything like issues to implement, like your reinforcements or your particular battles and things like that. So you have to kind of do both sides of it to an extent, but how hard you commit either side is important. And that's really cool. But this shared deck is, I'm the Austrian player, I might have a couple French guys. Some of them I might be able to use. Some of them,
Sure.
if I use them, might have a penalty against me. Or some of them it's like, hey, I actually like, it doesn't matter if I use it or not.
So here's a French card. There's a benefit for both the Austrian and the Russian.
On a very,
specific
very
issue.
specific niche issue.
So if I have that card and I'm the Austrian or the Russian, I can use that to benefit me on future government of France issue.
And I see it in my hand, so
Yep.
when I'm picking the issues, cool. Boop, I'm
Yep.
going to make sure that's on there.
Yep.
Or if I'm the French player, I've got this. And
Yeah.
And so you might have a hand of cards and it might not look like all your colors, but you want to look a bit closer, you'll have some bits.
Yep.
But then also you get into, this is a game where, because everyone comes in this shared deck, there is a trading mechanic as well.
Yep.
Where like, hey, I got one of your good leaders, can we...
And you can't say, I've got Wellington,
Yeah.
but you can say this is a very favorable card or a good card or a mid card.
Or like, hey, I have
It's
one of
not
your
great,
cards.
but I have one of your cards.
And then
That's about all
we
you.
can trade, you're British, I'm French. You can even do it that way where like, hey, we'll exchange cards to our mutual benefit.
Yeah.
Even though you might not want to do that because you're helping your opponent, but also you might have a crappy hand and you might be desperate.
Yep.
Or if you're the French, their French kind of national ability is when they offer a trade, the opponent must accept it.
Yeah.
So that they can like rake in all of their good cards.
Yep.
But every time you trade, you pass up the capacity to move something. So you have
play
to
a
then
card, yeah.
you have to then make the best of how many of those you have left. If you do 5 trades, you'll move 1 issue.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Well, and I found that trading at least once a round is very, very important.
Yeah.
Trading twice, you're starting, I think,
Yeah.
to potentially negatively impact your ability to move issues up, which is the heart of the game. So back to my comment. So here, there are 18 cards. I just kind of pulled these out. 14 of them have some kind of DRM for battle.
Yeah.
So 14. 4 out of those 18 have nothing to do with battle. So what's that? 20%?
Yeah.
4 out of 18.
And then half of these that have DRMs
They have other
also
effects.
have diplomatic
Yeah.
effects.
But I remember as the British, I had far fewer military cards because I was looking for them just to try to learn the game.
Right.
So
And
maybe that was
This
me.
could be not representative
Sure.
because it was random, but it could be that
Right.
the British deck is skewed towards diplomacy rather than combat, which makes sense, right? The British Army, as much as they want to lord themselves, weren't very big,
Yep.
right? But they were bankrolling the coalitions.
Yep.
They were doing all this other stuff. Whereas, I think we know from experience, the French deck has a lot of very strong military leaders in it.
Yep.
Because Cullen was kind of fishing those out, getting them from people's hands.
Sure.
And he was... And then the other cool part of it is a lot of the military leaders play off of each other.
Yeah.
So if this guy is played in a combat with Napoleon, he gets an additional bonus. So you want to play Napoleon and Marshal Ney together, and
Yeah, there's a
to encourage the synergies from historic things that happen, occurrences. That stuff was really fun to see.
Yeah.
And you'd see them. They would come over again and again, and when those two guys came out, you're like.
Yeah.
But like,
how was he getting them? Yeah.
Like that, it was those guys on the field. Like they kept doing their
Sure.
like master military strokes, and here we are seeing that in the game.
Yeah.
Like, so the cards are a wildly new, fresh take on what they've had previously.
Well, to
that was
me,
really good.
it is really the only thing that is different, majorly different in the game itself. The way the cards are used, what they are used for, and that they are now included in battle.
Yeah, because that's like the big deviation.
Yeah.
The other stuff
It's
is like
pretty standard.
We've just fleshed out the
Yeah.
combat. We
Yeah.
added more combat factors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Different things. But it's not like it changed it.
Yeah. Well, I will say this about the cards, because I remember, and we've played twice, we played the entire 10-turn campaign, which took 10 hours.
It was epic.
It was amazing.
Worth every
Then we
moment.
played, I think it was 2 turns in about 3.5 or 4 hours at Buckeye Game Fest.
Yeah.
Vastly different experiences. We gained some experience that we then parlayed into a better game.
Yeah, we were
months later.
learning it that first
Yeah.
time, really like just kind of walking through the rule book
Yeah.
almost that first turn.
But I remember, as we were going over the rules together as the 4 of us at Buckeye Game Fest in April, you were talking about the cards, and I'm like, ooh, that's very different.
it is so different.
And it struck me that, wow, I really appreciate that Frank, the designer, decided to add that element to, in my opinion, deepen an already very deep and engaging game. Adding the element of me being able to trade cards with you or hold cards from you was phenomenally interesting.
And you know what's funny? I just thought it was so cool. I happened to be, just before we kind of played this, I read this big old Napoleonics book called The Napoleonic Wars, A Global History. And a massive amount of this is actually about the diplomacy that was going on, and specifically the Congress of Vienna. Congress of Vienna is a little bit of a misnomer in this one, in that like this game takes place over like 18 months.
Yeah.
And it's not like, but it's
Right.
what the cards represent is all of our diplomats and liaisons and various general staffs going back and forth with letters and offers and rejections, and it's like, here's the guys who are available to you, and here's what they care about and what they're good at, and like sometimes they're like, okay, can I get rid of this guy and get someone else from someone? But like having a hodgepodge of guys at your disposal instead of your like very fixed, here's my cabinet deck from Churchill, totally different game experience.
Well, I think
but it was cool that it felt historical with what was going on.
Well, I think in Churchill, if I remember correctly, and I actually read the Churchill strategy article that I wrote like 5 years ago. Each deck has 22 cards, including the leader. You know, FDR, Truman for the Americans, Churchill for the Brits, and Stalin for the Soviets. 22 cards. They are evenly distributed with the values printed on the cards. So of those 22 cards, something like 4 were 1 value, 4 were 2, 4 were 3, etc., etc.
Okay.
Very evenly distributed, but where they diverged was some of the cards had, if played, and these have the same thing.
Yeah.
If played on a military op issue, you gain +2. So that 3 printed value on that card all of a sudden became 5 if you played on a military op. Same concept here. And if I looked at my strategy guide, the U.S. had something like 119 total PowerPoints. And the way I determined that was add the printed value to the bonus on the issues that are printed on the card.
Yeah, for optimal play.
For optimal play. It was like 119 for the Americans, 107 for the Brits, and 86 for the Soviets. And I would like to do the same thing here because I feel like there's some of that asymmetry.
Oh, without question.
France's generals are frickin' amazing. Like you've already said it. If you look at Ney and Napoleon, they're amazing. Wellington is also amazing, but that's the only good general I had. Everybody else was just mid.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And I think historically, the Brits weren't necessarily dominating the battlefield.
Yeah, like Wellington can turn the tide of a specific
Oh,
battle.
100%.
The other guys aren't doing that.
They're just helping. So I think the asymmetry is still there. I would like to do a study of that because I find that stuff interesting. But I do like how the game is tilted towards France in the power of those cards. And it really truly becomes the coalition versus France.
And kind of like Churchill, what you described here, and everyone's like, what? The Soviets only had 87 power points?
They hadn't yet, though, as well.
That's the balancing part,
and
right?
the Austrians have that,
Exactly.
right?
So I would be surprised if I didn't see the Austrians have less power.
Right.
And what we mean by the niet is, and the Austrians have it here, whenever they debate, they're inherently at a +1 to that.
So when someone else moves an issue, you're going to go around the table in turn order, and everyone has the option, I think it's once per turn.
Once per turn, yeah.
To debate and challenge that. Oh, nope, I'm going to move that issue back. The Austrians get a +1. No one else gets unless the card
but it's a plus,
says it.
Right, it's a +1 on the Austrian cards and on neutral cards.
Got it.
And so I would imagine so the Soviets had that, which is why they don't have 87 printed power.
Yep.
So
there's a neutral debating, +1 for debating.
And the Austrians are going to get an additional +1 to that.
Got it. So that would be 6.
Yes.
That's crazy.
So, but you'll look, the Austrian cards are just not as good.
Got it.
But that's their. So I'm always curious about those kinds of breakdowns of those cards because that's something that's very well thought out, very planned. Frank's probably put a lot of work into that.
Right.
And it's just such an interesting dynamic to what the games are. But I think you also brought up an interesting point to note. It's a coalitions game, but it's kind of a 3v1 game.
Sure.
For most of the game, at least.
Yeah.
So just note that. If you're playing as the French,
Well-
you're trying to fight everyone.
Well, literally the French are fighting on every single front, right? You've got, is it 3 fronts in the East?
It's like 2.5, because there's the Italian front.
Right,
but
so
it's
two major ones,
two
and
major
then
ones.
the Italian, and then you have the 2 Spanish.
Yeah.
Aren't there 2?
It's like
and then,
yeah.
And then you have the War of 1812, which is a sideshow between only Britain and France. Or I'm sorry,
Britain and the US.
France, Britain and the U.S. as France, controlled by the French player.
But
Which
and then there's some minor bits and pieces like the Scheldt campaign, and then
Right.
Sicily,
On the other tracks.
But there's 4 major tracks,
Yeah.
and the French are defending on every single one of those.
And there's going to be a battle almost every single round, and it can be very daunting. That's why their leaders are so good.
Yes.
And I get that. I do get that. But it is a 3v1 game. One comment I would have, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit later. I know we talked about it in our first impressions video. Our game turned very interestingly. I'm actually surprised Cullen, as the French, sided with my offer, but it was because that was his only hope.
He was king-making at that point.
Well, I don't know if he was king-making.
Because he was done.
No, I get it, but I think he was hoping, because we talked about this as I made the offer, he was hoping to potentially finish like 3rd or 2nd.
Right.
Which
he didn't have a hope of winning.
He really didn't have a hope of
he
winning.
was just like...
I hate that word king-making, though, because I don't feel like that's what he was doing. And I probably could have made the overtures to him a turn earlier, but then I had that idea. I'm like, oh, I can do this. Now, he didn't have to accept it. But what ended up happening at the end of the game, I think it started in turn 9. The issue that we had together that we wanted to do better on was the absolutism versus, what was the other?
Liberalism.
Liberalism. We were the liberals, British and the French.
Yes.
Absolutism was the monarchs.
Yes, Austria
right?
and Russia.
And that is an issue that is almost on the table every single time. Somebody's going to put it on the table if a card hasn't already put it on the table. Because it's worth victory points, to the people who win it because you get a chance to move that
If
marker.
whoever's got it up on the track, you score that many VPs
Yeah,
at the end.
very powerful. And I think that Cullen was hoping that he could hold you guys off. We could continue to get the absolutism versus monarchy issue. I'm sorry, I said it wrong.
I know what you're saying.
And that's why I think he ultimately decided, because I tried to convince, I'm like, hey, here's what's going to happen. We have like 12 points we could have gotten. We didn't get them. Just going to be honest. But I'm like...
I think we ended tied on that track.
Oh, yeah, it was crazy.
So no one got any points.
The other thing is we were trying together to try to take away Russia and Austria's military operations. Because if you don't have a military operation, you can still attack if you're attacked.
You
but
can
you
always
can't
attack,
advance.
you can't make progress.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't advance. And that was his only hope.
And
was to...
What's funny is, it ended up, the military op wasn't the thing in the end.
Okay.
It was the Generalissimo that we lost.
Because then
That's what killed us.
you couldn't coordinate.
Yep.
So I'm trying to remember the way the game worked out. But I bring that up because I found that to be fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
The way the score was distributed at the very end, I think Austria was winning, Russia was second, Britain was third, and France was fourth, I think. We started
Something like that, yeah.
Maybe I was second. Anyway, we started to team up because we're like, well, these guys are going to run away with it because they were crushing France.
Well, and had we made it into Paris, it would have been a runaway at that point.
Because it was like a 10-point VP swing.
Minimum, yeah.
So I found that to be fascinating. And I can see something like that happening, not every time, but I could see something like that happening quite often.
And I think why that's fascinating also is that's kind of absent from things like Pericles
Yes.
and Churchill.
Yeah. There's no real negotiation in that respect.
Yeah, right? It's here's our simulated negotiations.
Right.
And then we see what happens.
Yeah.
But this game has room for like genuine
Yeah.
like jockeying and like, hey, let's
Yeah.
talk about this. Because we might be fighting a military battle, but we share interest in this post-peace power.
Yep.
And same thing for the future France of government, of like the future French government issue. Some of the names, quite long.
Very long.
But like, hey, I have an interest in this. So do you, who I normally
Let's
wouldn't
work
care
together.
about. Let's
Yeah.
do this thing. But
Yeah.
how much do we commit to that? Because I've got
Yeah.
other things.
Yeah.
There's more space for that in this game, for sure, that is very dynamic.
And once again, one of the real carrots for us doing the negotiation was what? Those French cards. I had some of his best cards. While I couldn't tell him, I've got all your great cards, I'm like, the couple of cards I have that I can trade to you are very good. The only way I'm going to trade... Now, I know he has that ability to...
No, but you can give him the crap ones.
Right,
You say,
because I
"I'll
had
give you
crap
the-
ones as well.
I'll give you the good ones if you do this.
And that's kind of what we said. I think I had Marshall Ney, and I had one of his other ones that made it... What was the one that made it with... For every different coalition force, you were -2?
I don't remember what the name was, but yeah,
That was a very wildly swingy... It was like -8 to -10. He kept using it on me in Spain. And I had the Portuguese, the Spanish, the English, and whatever else I had. But that was the interesting part, is my carrot to him was, I've got your good cards. You work with me, or I'm going to give you the 2 and 3 that I've got, and they're crap.
Yeah.
So do you want to try to fend them off? Now, he should have asked me for something, which he really didn't, because I kept waiting for him to say, well, you can't attack me here, right? In my 2 Spanish, I kept attacking him every time. Now, I was gonna break that, no matter, because he already had broken my heart with turning on me one time, and I'm like, no, that's not happening again. But to me, that was what was really interesting about this game, and I think that's why the game is called Congress of Vienna, and it's not called the Napoleonic Wars.
Yes, agreed.
It is about that negotiating table. It is about the back channel discussions, the negotiation that ultimately will change whatever is going to end up happening. And I thought it was fascinating. Now, I realize that's ahistorical. French and the British hate each other, have for millennia.
Yes, but it's not necessarily though, because
It's true.
The British did not necessarily want Napoleon to like be completely vacated and to have to abdicate the throne and be done with, because they didn't want a French monarch under the influence of Alexander
Sure.
to take over. Like
Yeah.
that's, so like,
And isn't
it's-
that kind of what happens in Churchill too?
to an extent?
You end up kind of debating between the two Western allies. Do I want a two powerful Soviets that take over the world? It's the same concept.
Yeah, in
right?
Churchill, it's almost that one's quite acute from a game standpoint, because it's like, hey, if someone's running away with it, they're probably going to lose
Because they lose victory points
because
if they're so
if
far
it's too
ahead.
far ahead,
Yeah.
and then we make a block, and then
Yeah.
one of us is going to win. But this one, it's under the player's own dynamism, because you don't have that like,
Yeah.
oh, the winner loses 5 VPs if they're 20 VPs ahead or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I think that additional layer of like player agency and diplomacy is really fun,
Yeah.
and it makes it a very dynamic game, and everything's kind of, there's nothing like fixed. There's nothing rote in this game. And
Yeah.
the outcome of a specific battle, or the outcome of even one specific issue being not where it's supposed to be on the board, can make
Yeah.
a huge difference. And you can talk about that, instead of it just being like, I'm playing my cards to win all my issues. I win the most issues, I'm going to win a bunch of points, and then I'm going to enforce myself on the board. That's what
Yeah.
Churchill kind of is.
Well, the other thing I wanted to talk about, because I was impressed by this, right? So there are 10, if you play the campaign game, there are 10
10, yeah.
turns, right? Here are these are called the initial situation cards. You draw one of these from a deck of 10 every turn. Are they random or are they seeded? That was the one thing I don't remember.
They're numbered 1 through 10, so
Okay.
we play them seeded.
Okay.
But there's
But then
3
there's-
sets of them.
There's C's and B's.
So there's a B 1 through 10 and a C 1 through 10.
Right.
And Churchill has this as well, where each conference has 3 different variants.
Yep.
And this deck is the historical one. And these
Okay.
are like kind of different focuses or ahistorical stuff. And so you can play either the A deck, the B deck, or the C deck.
Got it.
Or you can take all the A's, or all the ones, A, B, and C,
And just
shuffle
mix
those up,
them up.
and pick one.
Yeah.
And then all the B's, all the 2s, A, B, and C, you pick one for the next set. So there's a lot of variance that
Yeah.
you can inject into
Well,
it.
and I think that to me is very cool. The fact that I've got 30 cards here, and in a given game, I'm going to see 10 of them. It depends on how you
At
do
most,
it.
yeah, right.
Yeah, if you want to do all the A's, you're going to see all 10 of the A's. But you can mix them up. I just think that's fascinating because these situations are wildly different.
Yeah, they will influence a turn,
Yep.
and they will influence a game.
Because what they're going to do is they're going to put certain issues on the table from the get-go. More often than not, most of these put my financial aid on the tracks of the Austrians and the Soviets, or Russians, every single
Soviets,
time.
I like that.
I know, the Russians. Every single time, right? And I had no choice because that's what was printed on the card.
Because that's what you did.
And ultimately, that hurt my ability to do what I wanted because I have a limited amount of resources that I'm now having to give 1 or 2 away unless I fight to get those issues on my side or back to the center. But I would love to play a deck where maybe that wasn't the case and just see how that changes the game.
Yeah, like we played that big old 10-turn campaign. It was incredible. It was epic. We play the B deck next time, and it would
Yeah,
be very
it would be
different.
very different.
It would be very, very different.
That's what I find to be interesting. I also really like the personality cards. What they call these?
I don't.
British leader.
Yeah, just
leader.
leaders.
Because they're very specific and Napoleon's the most powerful. He can be used in battle or he can be used to move certain issues. And his printed value is a 7. That's second. Tsar Alexander is also a 7. Everybody else is a 5. That's very powerful.
I don't know about Castlereagh, but he's a 7 on these specific
Yes,
things.
on those issues,
So you
yeah.
can, if you're first, you
Yep.
can always pop your
Get it.
leader on that one
Yep.
thing to get the thing and get
Yeah.
it done.
And those are pretty important to the Brits. right? Liberalism, absolutism is something that I wanted every single time because it was the source of like 15 VP. I just love the way the game is constructed. Obviously, Churchill is the same. It has some of the same elements regarding the situation cards. But I was very impressed with Frank. I was very impressed with how it played out. The game is fun. It's good. It made sense. I didn't think the rules were overly complex and complicated.
Not particularly.
Particularly because we are familiar with Churchill, Pericles.
If you're coming from a Churchill Pericles background, you'll pick this up.
Yeah. It'll make the entry to the game that much easier.
Yeah. What I will do is I will show you how the game plays, which I recorded
At WBC.
So hopefully it's fine.
We're time traveling here.
And then we'll wrap up with a few final thoughts. So here's a look at the board. It's a little loud, and for that I apologize. We're still at WBC, so there's lots of people playing war games around here. This is the end of a 10-turn campaign, and we are joined by the designer, Mark Herman. Say hi, Mark.
Hi, guys.
Okay, he's going to leave now whilst I finish shooting the rest of the board. We'll have an interview with him later on. But you can see that the board, very much something like Churchill or Pericles, divided into two halves. We have our kind of Congress of Vienna debate tracks over here, and then we have our converging, almost states of siege-style tracks of Central Europe, well, Central and Western Europe. This is much more of a war game than Churchill. And we say that because you have these big armies moving back and forth. Someone is actively playing as Napoleon, so there's counterattacks, there's active defense, and there's this track in the middle is our kind of battle DRMs modifier. You'll have DRMs up to like 40 plus, and that's going to translate into these brackets of how many losses you're going to inflict. So things get pretty granular with all the different types of units, numbers of units, military support, different generals you commit to all the different battles, and we'll show you that very briefly. But the granularity of the combat is kind of a few steps up from what you've experienced in other great statesman games. So on this side of the board, basically we have a few different things that go on. We have the initial situation cards, and the initial situation cards are going to say, hey, it's for 1814 March through April. Here's some things that affect the Russians. And it might be you place a couple of issues on the track. So we've got the Generalissimo issue. That's going to go on the one space of the Russian track. And also a Russian military op on the one space of the track. And then the future government of France on the negotiation table. So this goes in the middle here. And then they also draw Blucher into their hand. So they will have Blucher at the end, plus the rest of the cards, but it's for seeding historical things that happened. Austria is going to get the Austria military op and Bavaria on the two space of their track. So we have an Austria military op and Bavaria, etc. So you're going to go through all the French and the British ones as well. So you have some initial setup, and this is kind of like where things were, what they were talking about during this time period. And then we're effectively going to roll for some kind of random bits and pieces that happen. You roll 2d6. One for the column is a 3. So Austria gets to search the deck and pick out any one card that they want. And then 3 US troops go to the War of 1812, which is this little extra box over here, if the War of 1812 hasn't been concluded. And then no, there is no US mil op that's placed into there. On a roll of a 6 or more, I can't find it now, the US military op, like the US goes on the offensive into Canada, basically. But in this instance, it doesn't happen. Then you roll a second die, you roll a 1, so you look at the 1 row, and it corresponds with the column, plus 1 British fleet. So the British get a fleet from their force pool into London, which they will deploy later on in the game. So you have a little initial kind of setup stuff there. And then effectively what you're going to do is you're going to deal cards. And the big difference between this game and other ones is it is a shared deck, and all the deck has different nationalities, or it has little neutral cards, and a lot of them have different effects for all players, and they affect each player differently. Or you might have France, where it's got this French thing if the French guy plays it, but if Austria or Russia plays it, they also get a bonus on a specific issue as well. But the other part of this game is that this is all your guys. You're going to get like a minimum of 10. Typically, you're going to get more. There's a little hand size table down here. And that's based on geography. The more land you take, the more your hand size goes up. But what you might find here, let me find one. Here we go, we got for Sherbrooke. So he's 3 for the British for debating. So he's going to move an issue 1, 2, 3 onto the British track. But it's +2 if the issue is already on the British national track. So let's say it was here, 1, 2, 3, +2, 1, 2. So it goes all the way to 6. Or down here, instead of playing this card's 3 ops value, Russia, Britain, or Austria may cancel the VP award for the War of 1812 to France this turn. That has a historical context, but if the War of 1812 is tilting towards the US and France, they can negate those victory points which are awarded every single turn. You negate them for that turn. But here's what's really interesting. We have here a British +3 British DRM or -3 US DRM only in the War of 1812 box. So this is a combat kind of effect. This is the debate effect. And so you have this hand, you'll have 10 cards or so, and you're looking through them all. They're different nationalities. But some of them you're like, cool, this is a really good debate card, right? I can like really hammer on a couple of these things, and he might not have a thing. But this guy, I have to choose. Am I going to use him in the debate phase for this cool stuff, or am I going to hold on to him for later use as a military commander, where I will commit him in the military phase and then reveal it and get that effect in the War of 1812 for that one specifically? Or this guy's Murat +3 French DRM in battles with Napoleon, or in Italian or Naples fronts, which are these ones down here. So there's all these stipulations, right? Oh, he's +3 if he's with Napoleon. So I might be like, ooh, well, I'm going to save Napoleon, and when I use Napoleon in battle, he's supported by Murat. I get even bigger bonuses for using them together. So there's a lot of different things on these cards, which are a huge, you sit through and pore over, oh, what can I, can't do. There's a lot of variety, a lot of choice that's really, really interesting. But the way that all this functions is you're going to take it in turns. I play a card, I play a 3, I move it up on my track. Everyone gets the option to debate that. So the Austrian's like, nah, I don't care, you can win that. The French player's like, no, or no. And he's like, ooh, I'm going to play this card to debate you. It's a 4 +1 for debating, and a debate is kind of a counter push. So I played to do this, and as a counter push, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because it was 4 +1. And then you mark on this little track down here, which is almost off camera. You mark like, hey, the French did their one debate of the round. So you can't, otherwise it would just be endless back and forth and you'd spend all your cards. But basically, there's lots of push and pull and tug, but it has to go in order. So if I'm here, the French get first right of debate. If they choose not to, all of a sudden Alexander's like, ooh, I want to debate Bavaria. If I've just moved Bavaria onto my track, Alexander's like, haha, it has me on here. I have a vested interest in this. I can get a victory point if I win it. So he might debate. Ooh, I play a card for a debate. Let's play Wittgenstein +3. None of these are very helpful. You wouldn't play Wittgenstein for this. That's kind of a waste. 1, 2, 3. It's on my track all of a sudden. Lots of back and forth. You do that for 6 rounds, including different debates and things like that. And once that's all done, you adjudicate a winner. Whoever has the most issues on their track or secured on their seat is the winner. They will get some victory points for having won that. And here comes the real fun stuff. You then have to fund all of the things that you did. And this is, again, something that's a little bit different. So you have all of these resources, and the resources are asymmetric, and the coalition don't have a lot, and have to rely on the British bankroll and financial aid. Financial aid is an issue. So you have to win the financial aid from the British, and basically the British lose a resource, and you gain one of their resources. So lots of acrimony over that, because we were bankrupting the British, but by bankrolling ourselves. It was quite fun. But there's also priority. So there's these 1 issues, those go first. These 2 issues, like Peace Congress and Treaty of Ghent, those must be funded. Then the 3s, which are your mill-ops, must be funded. And then there's 4s, which is absolutism, must be funded. And everything else, so all of these little miners and the future government of France, if you have any resources left, you can choose to fund any or all of the ones that you have on your track, basically. So that's, again, there's an added economy layer that's really important for there too. And then you're going to resolve basically all of these issues. The miners are going to give you victory points. If you're on there, they might give you additional levied forces. The mill ops, you're going to pay that, and this is going to allow you to actually make progress on the track. So you buy it, and then you put it in your capital, like St. Petersburg, that will get deployed to the board later. But effectively, that's like investing in a military campaign, buying all the supplies, guns, and ammunition. You might buy reinforcements. So you pay a resource to buy the reinforcements, and then a reinforcement is you sacrifice a victory point to get 2 guys. That's all it is. 2 guys. So 2 guys go from your force pool, we don't have any, into Vienna, which will then be deployed to the game later. The French have the option on the French reinforcements, 1 VP to get 2 guys, or they can flip it over to lose 3 VPs to get 4 guys, which they will need to do. I can promise you that. It'll happen. And you're like, oh, like losing victory points to get guys, you need guys, you must have guys, and also everyone is doing it. So the victory points will like creep down as people do it. And it's a game of edge cases, like of closeness. Like this is pretty close scoring, all things considered. So just know that that looks like that sucks, and at first sight it looks like it does, but because everyone's doing it, it kind of all washes out over the course and the aggregate of the game. But the fewer times you have to do that, the better, right? But France is going to need to, and they're going to need to a lot. So that's going to be a very high priority issue for them. There's a few kind of miscellaneous tracks fighting between liberalism and absolutism, the future government of France, and some Pax Britannica. There's these auxiliary tracks. Some of them are issues, some of the things that just happen with prereqs and dice rolling. It's just a way to kind of mill victory points and things like that. But more often than not, everything else, you're going to kind of come over here. You've got your reinforcements from your reinforcement issues. Every even turn, you're going to get like generic replacements, which come just like from your land, where you're levying guys. And then you're going to go and you flip over to kind of the war phase, where you will stack your army boxes, which correspond to your army front markers, with guys. You can see France has almost no one left. We bled the French dry. They still hung on, but it didn't go well. You're going to kind of put them all out, and then you're going to commit which fronts your mill-up mark is going to go to. The Russians can either choose this one or this one. The British can choose this one, or this one, or they can put some into the War of 1812. But the Americans are already fighting, so they don't need to. A fight will occur there. And then the French are also doing that. When there's a French and an allied one, basically it means that either side can advance. Otherwise, even if France were to win this battle, they don't have a mill-up marker, so they can't advance. So in this instance, that's why you want to put those out, basically, if you want to make progress geographically. If you're just playing defensively, you don't really need to invest in those, so you don't worry about it that much. But when they're on the gates of Paris, you got to fight them off. And it's a great fun time. So then eventually you're going to get to a combat, and we'll run one up here, and it's going to be real ugly, but we'll do it. We'll say there's a generalissimo here, and we're going to fight this battle. So the French look real raggedy. It's going to suck, sorry. So the first thing you do is you just add up the pieces. So the French have 7 pieces, so they're at +7 on this inner track. And then the Grand Army here is a combined of these, because they have a generalissimo getting them all together. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. And again, there's a lot of disparity here. We'll give them here. just to say that we did it. Where's my mill-up markers? Great. We'll get an Austrian one. There we go. Hey, we got one of these. Yay. There is a part of the game where you can spend extra resources if you have them, which is tough. For military support, we'll say that the French did do that, because the French typically have a lot of money. It's hard for them to win a lot of stuff. 1, 2, 3. So they're at 10. The generalissimo gives the Allies a +3. 1, 2, 3. If there's no generalissimo, because the French won that, they take a penalty because there's no coordination. And that's what we're doing. There's some kind of homegrown bonuses, but in this, so the French will have a 1, 2, 3 for a home field advantage, basically. So this is the initial kind of setup, and then what we do is we commit cards, and we do it secretly, and you can commit as many cards as you want, and some of the battles we fought had like 5, 6, 7 leaders in them, and they're all going to contribute. And so we'll get this guy in. Oopsies, I knocked him all over. Don't worry about me. But basically, you're going to put a couple of these guys on the board. We'll do Barclay. Where's all my French guys at? And where's Napoleon? He needs to fight. Yeah, they took him, and I don't know where they put him. Fouche, no. Here, well, it's Joseph. Here he is. We're going to commit Bonaparte and Murat. So these are all face down. And then we reveal them all. Boop. And in this instance, because it's the Allies attacking into France, the Allies apply their modifiers first. And that's important because some give you a choice. So for example, here it says +2 Allied DRM or -3 French DRM. And in this instance, we have to make that choice before the French do. And it's the difference between me going up or them going down, and it can make a big difference because you're trying to get past these different brackets on this. Is going to make the difference between hits, and the most hits wins. So in this particular instance, we're going to get ourselves over the line with a +2, because a -3, it puts them further away from this, but it doesn't get us down here, so that's what we're going to do with that guy. And this guy is +1 Allied DRM or -2 French DRM. +1 doesn't do us much good, so we'll do the -2, so they're further away from this +3 that would be a tie. Additionally, +3 Allied DRM in Central Europe if Kutuzov is dead. Well, guess what? Kutuzov died in turn 1 in this game, and this is the Central Europe track, and so we're going to get an additional +3. 1, 2, 3. So that was it for my leader modifiers, and those get discarded. And now we have Napoleon, +6 DRM with the Grande Armée. He's with the Grande Armée. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. +3 DRM with the Army of Elba. He is not with the Army of Elba. And -3 DRM if Allied DRM in Paris. In Paris, -3 Allied DRM. 1, 2, 3. That's just Napoleon. He's very strong. And this guy, +3 French DRM in battles with Napoleon. Great. We had Napoleon. That's why we did that. 1, 2, 3. So the leaders, as you can see, can make a massive difference. And then we're going to add to that 2d6. So we'll have an Austrian roll of 2d6, and we rolled 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then over here we'll have a French roll of 10. Wonderful. So they go from 20 up to 30. And you see how skewed the army numbers are, but with good defensive measures, good leaders, and a good roll, guess what? We're both going to inflict 3 losses on each other. So 3 losses from the French Grande Armée, and then 3 losses from our little coalition. So we'll lose 1 Austrian, 1 Russian, and 1 Prussian. Kill those guys. And that's the end of that. No one wins because it was a tie. If there was a win, you basically would exchange victory points because of how many guys took part in the battle, and it was a major battle. If the French had won, nothing would change. If the Allies had won, because they have the mill up, they could move in. Well, at this point they couldn't because the Grand Army is going to sit there. Well, they would move in. But also, if ever the Grand Army slips below 3 whilst in Paris, Napoleon surrenders because all his army is dead and the game's over at that point, basically. But that's how an army's drawn. It's a little bit crunchy in there, but you're going to get anywhere between 1 to 4 losses typically, and you lose a couple guys, you move the tracks, and that's all it does. You're never going to wipe a whole army, typically. You can wipe some of the smaller armies, but it's very unlikely. And eventually you're going to drain these boxes of French forces, or you might get drained if you lose horrendously in battle, in which case it's unopposed and they're just retreating and you're going to take space unopposed. And then there's some victory points that you're going to get for exchanging terrains. You're going to pick up points. The French is going to lose points. It's all net swings. The French start the game with like 50 or 60 victory points up here, and we're all down, right down in the gutter. and then it swings like this, and you meet in the middle somewhere right at the game's end. But that's how the game plays. It's wonderful. It takes a long time, and we'll wrap up here with a few final thoughts. So that was a look at the game. I had, because the first day I kind of just GM'd the thing. We had 4 other players. So the first half of the game I just GM'd, helped go through the rules and keep it going. It was a real good time.
And I think we played 6 turns the first night.
Yes. And
So
then,
we 7, 8, 9, and 10 the next day.
and then the second day I played as the Austrians because the Austrian player had to go home.
Yep.
And it was a joy to kind of do both of those different things as well. I had an incredible time playing this.
Yep.
I had an incredible time at Buckeye Game Fest just learning it because I love Churchill, one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
This is Churchill on steroids. Like, it's just got a much more involved war game aspect to it, which I find very satisfying. And the changes with the decks and the different things that you can do, just love it. I love what they're doing with this.
Well, I made a comment on this, I think, at Buckeye Game Fest. I love Churchill. You know that. I didn't love it from the get-go. I remember the first time we played, I was like, what the heck are we doing? But we played that game 4 or 5 times. I was like, this game's amazing. So I love the system. I love what it is trying to do. I love the debating mechanic. I love the war tracks. This game just feels, and this is said, I love Mark Herman. He designed this system, but every system is going to be matured. As people use it in other volumes, it's going to pick up new tricks. It's going to shift a little bit and evolve. This game, I believe, is a maturation of the Great Statesman series.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Really merging a war game with the dynamic negotiating and issue resolving that fund and fuel the war game part of it. I loved this game. I made the comment, I think, at Buckeye Game Fest that this is just that good. This one's going to be really hard to not be in my top couple of games.
Yeah.
It's just that good.
This is one of the
2025.
best 2025 games that we've played this year, without question.
And we played some bangers. We've played
Oh, yeah.
some good ones already.
But this is like right up there because it's something we were predisposed to like.
Oh,
right?
100%.
Churchill is a huge kind of mainstay here at the Players Aid.
Yeah.
This is that with more.
Yeah.
And the things that they added were all good.
Yep. Yep.
You know? And I just think it's awesome. The production from GMT, off the charts.
I mean, the chess piece is just incredible.
Totally unnecessary. But amazing.
But it's amazing. The other thing that we didn't even explore is the tactics chits.
Yeah, that's a whole additional optional thing.
It's an optional rule that will deepen the combat.
And slow it down.
And slow it down. I'd like to add that. Maybe do the 4, is it a 4-turn scenario?
Do a 5-turner.
Do a 5-turner and add those just to see
Yeah, just to do it.
how that
because
changes it.
Those are, it's I have a set of chits, you have a set of chits.
Yep.
And very much like Battles of the American Revolution tactics cards or Winter Thunder. Gosh, you remember that game?
Yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah.
freaking sweet. From Brian
That
Train.
Matrix.
Was that
Yep,
Train?
Brian Train.
Great game.
From Tiny Battle Publishing.
I pick, I pick
Yep.
my frontal assault.
And
you
I pick my
your,
flanking.
And we reveal those. That will cross-reference, and we'll get an additional combat
Yep.
modifier.
Yep.
Real simple, but it's
Going to slow it down a little bit.
Between doing 3 or 4 combats every round for 10 rounds, that's not an insignificant amount of time you're going to add to the game.
Yeah.
But it would be cool just to see it, and it's optional. You don't have to put it in. We
Yep.
didn't, but yeah, that'd be another additional fun thing to explore.
I just love that he's got some of those layers, and you can kind of just mix and match what you want to do. Like you said, do the historical situation cards, or mix them up, or add in the tactics, or the other comment I would have, and as the British player, I was frustrated by the War of 1812 the entire damn game. That was crazy, and it's a decision, right? Because it's worth a lot of victory points. I think if
you can get it to
if
go.
I won it, I think it was worth like 7 or 8 VP. And this was a game we scored in we were up the second side, so like the 60s?
Oh no, we weren't that high.
50s?
No. The winning scores were like 20.
I disagree with that. I think they were a little higher than that.
It's on the back of.
Yeah, I was going to look at the board.
I guess we were around that corner here. So, but
Yeah, we were on the second corner, and I thought there were 20.
so
Sorry.
we were around here. This is where like the winning score was.
So what was it?
So it was like 38. I
Okay,
guess.
so it was in the 30s and 40s. But my point is that War of 1812 is worth like 7 or 8 victory points. That's a big percentage of that total.
That's a cool thing. It's very hard to make progress and win, but
Yeah.
even making progress garners victory points every time.
Yep.
If you can win it and then sign your treaty, it's worth a ton of points.
So it's the decision for both the British and the French. How much of your resources do you put into that?
Well, and it's like ours. I don't think it ever moved. I think
never
there was
moved.
no
We
movement on that.
never had. We either had ties or one side would win by 1.
Yeah,
And
which is not enough to move.
Not
this
enough to
round.
move it.
But as soon as it moves one way or the other side has to commit a turn.
Yes.
Because you can't just give up those victory points.
Yeah.
And I think I'd like to see that.
Be more effective.
But what we saw it. I mean, there was a couple times where it was like,
Oh, well,
it should have happened.
there were a couple times where I had a 7 or 8 point lead,
And the dice were just
and I would roll a 1 and a 2, and Cullen would roll
an 8 or a 9.
8 or a 9, and it's like we tied again.
Yeah, there was.
Very
Of the
frustrating.
10 turns, there was 2 that were like locks for you to have
Yeah,
won.
I felt like I should
And
have
it
won
was
those 2 turns.
Unbelievable that it didn't.
And that's
But that's a game, right?
the fate of the dice, right? But I would like to see that play out either way.
Yeah.
Just to see how that changes the dynamic. Now, I would say this. I did not focus on that the first like 5 turns of the game. 4 or 5 turns of the game. I was more focused on other stuff. The Spanish fronts.
Yeah.
I wanted to get as far as I could. I looking back on it with how powerful Wellington was, I might have put a little more resources into trying to do better there early on.
Yeah.
I think by the end, if you've not got it, it's time to move on because I had other things I had to do.
But you also can't risk.
You can't give up on it.
If
Yep.
the US put their little marker out and like
Yeah.
you've got nothing up there, you're like, oh.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, my tactic was to fill up all the ships. I think I could have 4 ships up there,
Yeah, it was 4.
which are +4 to my roll. And then I would throw 1 or 2 guys when I could. But sometimes I needed those down in Spain. But I never wanted to be outclassed by more than... I wanted to be even or have a 1 or 2 advantage.
Yeah.
And I would have played that a little more aggressive maybe next time. But that's to discover in our next play.
Yeah, and that's just it, right? There's still so much more to discover.
Yes.
Because we played 10 turns of this. It would never play out like that quite the
No.
same again. There's so much variance. There's so much
Yeah.
different things that can go on. And yeah, you've got to, like, the Russians have to focus on doing this, and the Austrians want to try to do this thing with their little peace Congress stuff.
Yeah.
You have a focus, sure, but the way that it's all going to come together will never be the same
Yeah,
twice.
agreed.
And that's really, really fun.
Agreed.
Yeah, this is an incredible achievement, an incredible
Yeah.
game.
It's so good.
It comes with my highest recommendation.
100%.
If you've never played one of these types of games, it is quite a big rule book. Don't be put off by it. Get with a group, do it because it's well worth it. I can't speak highly enough of this game.
Well, it's a game that I think this is going to be in our regular rotation
Yes.
of convention games, right?
In a way that Churchill was for a long time.
But it's only 3 players.
Only 3. So
This
we can
one's
play with
4.
one. 4 is much more manageable.
I would love it if it could somehow be 5, but 4 is good.
Thank goodness the Prussians aren't a real player.
Well,
That's a joke.
I mean, yeah, exactly. We were talking about the Napoleonic Wars earlier. So anyway, Congress of Vienna, I would play this at the drop of a hat.
Yep.
I've loved our 2 plays of this. I love it. This
Yep.
is a real triumph for Frank and I think the series, and this is one of the best games of 2025, hands down.
Congress of Vienna from GMT Games. You got to go check this out. Appreciate you very much for tuning in. I'm Alexander from PlayerSaid.com.
And I'm Grant.